How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome back to the Skating Penguin Network, everyone. It is Robbie here again. And like we promised on our last episode earlier this week, we do have a special guest with us for this episode. But before we do that, I'm going to introduce Snail, who is here again. Snail, obviously, out in Seattle. But before we get to the guest, Snail, how's it going?
It's going well. It's a beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm glad that it's done now. But if this started 15 or 20 minutes before, we had the house that we're living on has like a 3/4 acre plot, but it had been overgrown by sticker bushes that were like 20 feet tall. It was a complete jungle. So they've been hacking and whacking back there doing that, and they just wrapped up. So I'm glad that you don't have to listen to the buzz of those, whatever. They look like the Grim Reaper scythe or whatever. Yeah. Sith. Is it a Sith or a scythe?
I think it's a Sith. I really don't know.
Yeah, either way, they had some like mechanical versions of those that they've been hauling around since bright and early this morning. So fortunately, that's all done. Got a bunch of the yard back, which is cool. But other than that, just really pumped for this episode and to get to our special guest.
Yeah. So without wasting any time, we will bring in our special guest here. If you've listened to the podcast before last spring, you will know this guest. We would like to welcome back to the show former host and general Mr. Shin Splints. Let's say that. Mr.
I was waiting
Garrett,
for the Shin Splint reference.
Mr. Garrett Bahana. Garrett, welcome back to the show.
You know, I don't like the fact that you promised your listeners that you were advertising me, and I'm half the reason. That's not me putting stock into myself. I'm not tooting my own horn, but the fact that you're advertising this special guest appearance as if I'm some big shot, I don't know.
No, I mean, the listeners know who you are. You've been away for a year.
I don't know about that. I'm just some guy living a quiet life right now. I don't know if I'm worthy of the advertisement and you know all of the buildup that came with you saying that I was making a grand return.
Well, actually, I teased that it was Sidney Crosby or Kyle Dubas, and people are going to have their socks blown right off when they realize that it's Garrett Bahana.
Oh dear. What have you done to the listeners advertising either one of Dubas or Crosby, and they get me? Oh no!
So I mean, hey, it's someone. I mean, hey, we don't have many guest appearances. We had Garrett. You know Hunter Hodes. He was on.
Yeah.
Hunter was on at the beginning of the season. We had our Nike replica connoisseur.
Yep.
On last year.
Just Do Hockey.
Yes, Just Do Hockey at the earlier in 2024. But now we have Garrett back, and Garrett, it's been about a year since we've talked over the podcast, but how is life now, a year later since exiting the podcast? How's life going, just in general?
Robbie and Snail, we were talking just before we hit record about catching up on some of the things that I'd been doing since I departed the podcast. But overall, I can't complain too much. I don't remember exactly when I made my last appearance on the podcast, but probably since then, I've been able to get my own apartment. So that was like the big thing.
Nice.
That was the big thing that happened for me last year. It was in the middle of July, right after the 4th of July. I signed all the paperwork, and since then I've been living in my own place, which has been crazy. Like experiencing all of that, because since before that I was still living with my parents after I graduated college, and being out in your own space and paying for your own bills. And I mean, I had bills to pay like when I was living with my parents, but it's a whole nother world when like you're paying for the space that you live in rather than still living under your parents' roof. Going grocery shopping for all your groceries, getting the full adult experience that I really wasn't getting living with my parents. But
are you feeding yourself well, or are you like a SpaghettiOs guy and like maybe like a Hungry Man dinner for like frozen like those freezer meals? So you guys have those out there, the Hungry Man dinners? It's like Salisbury steaks and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a good question, because it's a little bit of both. I am no culinary expert. I am no chef. Although, like, that is something that I want to get better at, especially now that I'm by myself. But I have to admit that I still, not heavily, but I still regularly rely on frozen meals from time to time. I just went grocery shopping yesterday. Where I live, there's a Giant Eagle not even 2 minutes from my apartment. So for Snail, who may not know what it's basically
is that a hardware store?
No, it's Giant Eagle is just a supermarket chain out here in Western Pennsylvania. And
so is that like Costco or more like a Safeway?
It's not. It's definitely not a Costco, because
Costco, like a Safeway.
Yeah. Speaking of Costco, though, I did see in the news recently that they're building a Costco about 25 to 30 minutes away from me, which is super close in relation to where the nearest Costco is. Like, there's a Costco. Robbie, you're probably familiar with the
I do know where it's at. I just can't think of the area. I do.
The waterfront, Homestead. Yeah. That's where my nearest Costco is.
That's a little pretty far for. So, like, your part, without giving away like your actual location.
I'll give away my home address right now.
Yeah, what's your address, Garrett?
Are you still? Did you stay in the? We'll just say Charleroi area, or did you move like outside of closer to city?
I would still probably classify it as what listeners in southwestern PA would recognize as the Mon Valley. I'm still in the Mon Valley.
Okay.
It's a tiny little town called Finleyville along Route 88. But I'm about 20 to 25 minutes north of where I grew up in Charleroi.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
I am, however much closer to Pittsburgh. I am 20, 25 minutes closer to Pittsburgh than I was, growing up along the Mon River in Charleroi. Yeah. But, I'm that's where I moved to. I'm still close to all of my family. I really like the location of where I got this apartment because, as I mentioned, I'm not even a 2-minute drive away from the nearest grocery store. I have a gas station down the block from my apartment. I'm 10 minutes away from when I have to go into the city for work. I'm less than 10 minutes away. I catch the trolley to take into Pittsburgh. So I'm really, location-wise, I couldn't have asked for a better place to get my first place. But yeah, I'm still local, still south of the city. but yeah, still connected to family and friends and all that, which is another thing that I really wanted to be. I really have no real plans to relocate outside of PA.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I've been. I'm still close, still plugged into the South Hills and Pittsburgh and the surrounding environs.
So I'm looking at Finleyville right now on Google Maps, and I'm
Nice.
using the images. So that's what Pennsylvania looks like, huh?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania has a lot of those little tiny,
Yep.
tiny towns.
A lot of brick.
Yes.
A lot of brick. Your streets the pavement just looks beat to shit.
Oh, I mean, that's just standard Pennsylvania road.
Yep.
It's like you guys got lots of like big groups of like dense woods and then just like hills. It looks like kind of just like small hills.
Yep.
And dude, you're really close to like, so you're down in Southwest Pennsylvania. You're kind of close to like West Virginia.
Yeah, the West Virginia border. Like I could be in Morgantown and probably
half hour.
Yeah, 45 minutes. Yeah.
And then are you close to Maryland too, or is that?
Yeah, the I would probably be considered like the western edge of the Maryland border. I've actually taken a few family vacations down in Deep Creek, Maryland, which is Garrett County.
So nice.
Oh, it's awesome. It is awesome.
Deep Creek's so nice. It kind of sounds like very western, like very kind of like you're going to a lake, but dude, Deep Creek is. I mean, it's so nice down there.
Yes, it is amazing. If I had the money, man, I would buy a lakefront property down on Deep Creek Lake. I'd live there year round. I know a lot of those properties are, summer houses for a lot of the rich folk, in the surrounding area.
Yeah.
I would be living on that lake year round, man. It is just so much fun down there.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, and the thing about like these small towns is they're all built on the rivers because that's how they transported stuff back when these towns were founded.
Yeah, back in like a lot of these towns are old. War.
Yeah.
Honestly, you're not wrong, Snail.
Finleyville's probably got to be 1800s.
Yeah.
Based on where it's at.
Yeah.
But steel mill towns. I mean, so you're closer to the city now than when you were. Like if you were in Charleroi.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Charleroi is closer to Bell Vernon and Monessen. Is Bell Vernon the really good football team?
Bell Vernon does have. Recently, they've had a pretty good football program.
Yeah, they had a kid that went to Penn State.
You're talking like college?
Bell Vernon's a high school, but he went to Penn State. A kid played football at Bell Vernon, went to Penn State to play football.
Dude, that is something we do not have here, is that people knowing like good high school football players. Like we have no high school football culture in this area. Like there, you know what I mean? Here it being like, oh yeah, that one good football player who ended up going to college. That is an insane statement to someone like me.
I can top that statement, Snail, because my dad, who is from here, he graduated from Bell Vernon.
From Finleyville?
No.
Bell Vernon's south, yeah.
Yeah, it's south of Finleyville. But he I don't think he was in the same graduating class, but he was in high school at the same time and he was playing football on the same team with Scott Zolak and if you're familiar with New England Patriots lore or Southwestern Pennsylvania football lore, Scott Zolak did end up, I forget where he went to college, but Scott Zolak ended up, I think he was a backup for the New England Patriots, but he did make his way to the NFL, and I think Scott Zolak still lives in the New England area. I think he does color commentary for like the Patriots radio network still.
Wow.
But yeah, like to answer your question, Snail, like this place, Southwestern PA, is a high school. Like it's not even high school. It's just a football hotbed. Like we're churning out pro football players, not pro football, but football in general. We churn out football players like we churn out Isley's chipped ham sandwiches. It's like,
that's true.
What the hell is an Isley's chipped ham sandwich?
Well, that's its own piece of Pittsburgh lore. Chipped ham is a Western Pennsylvania phrase. It's just the way they cut the lunch meat that you and Isley's
so
like
blue collar.
insane.
You guys are so blue collar out there, like such steel
Yeah.
mill folk. Like even the names, like I don't know, like just everything. You guys churn out football players. You like ham. You guys, I don't know, high school football players carry a ton of weight. Apparently, like that's just God, so different from out here. Yeah, have you ever seen that one show with it's a sitcom. It's got God, who he's married to Mila Kunis.
That 70
Adam
show?
Sandler?
No, that's
No, Adam
Ashton
Sandler.
Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher was in a sitcom, and
that 70 show?
No. It's newer. Where he's a high school football player, and then he never made it to pros, and he's basically a loser. But do you know which one? And Sam Smith, I think. Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott is
The Ranch.
The Ranch. Yes.
Yeah.
You guys are painting a scene for me that I'm like, it's like you guys live in a town like The Ranch, where everyone drinks Coors Lights, and I guess they were in Colorado, so they drink that beer. But whatever beer you guys have out there,
Icy Light, Iron City, baby.
Icy Lights.
Yep. Iron City.
You
can go.
So you're saying like if you. So Garrett, is there a bar in your town of Finleyville?
Yeah, right on my street. There's probably the thing about where I grew up, Robbie. I don't know if it's the same where you're at in the
Johnstown,
but
founded by who I would assume to be someone named John in like the Revolution era.
John's was actually the last name.
Oh, plural.
But
yep,
like
last name. Yep.
Where I grew up, in Charleroi, it was an immigrant hotbed, and a lot of those immigrants who came over in like the 1890s or the turn of the century into the 1900s, they didn't speak like English. So all these immigrants that came over sort of like created their own pockets, and and as a result, they would create their own clubs basically. And this
is the duck pin bowling clubs you've talked about.
Yes. These clubs that the Polish, Italian, German, Belgians, like there are two clubs in Charleroi that I have frequented and my parents have frequented, the Italian club and the Belgian club, and like those are like our version of the tiny little watering holes that like people would go to after working in the mills all day. They would go to these little tiny tavern kind of bar places, and that's where they would congregate and talk with people who spoke the same language that they did. But yeah, that's kind of it, and it's still the same even where I'm living in Finleyville. There's tiny bars sprouted all over this area.
So kind of like an Elks Club type of deal.
Yes.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, we have
those are cool. I could see myself one day being a proud Elks type member somewhere, just running the show on like playing pool. And don't you guys get like cheap beer and stuff in those kinds of places? Like it's cheaper than going to like a. Yep. They pay club prices, so you don't have to pay $4.95 for a pint of Coors Light or something. You guys get it at a discount. That's awesome. Maybe I belong in Garrett. We should swap. I think I'm more cut for. I was actually joking with Robbie about this. What was it, like a couple weeks ago? Like, I picture Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas like Finleyville and Charleroi as very blue collar areas. And
it is,
I never went to college. I mean, I think I actually went to one day of community college, and I said too soon for me. And I just immediately got into the trades. I started doing tiling and painting. And Robbie is a college boy, and he graduated from a great university, and he works technically in tech, right? Like you work with computers.
Yep.
And it's just and out here in Seattle, it's the tech hub of like it maybe not so much anymore. I don't really know where the tech hub of. I mean, Silicon Valley had a good run for a long time. I think Austin, Texas, might be like the new Silicon Valley now, but Seattle is historically known for its tech. And I grew up more of a blue collar boy, and Robbie grew up probably not a callus on those hands.
No, not
honestly, Robbie, I'm right there
Yep.
with you, Robbie. Like I was not one of those who grew up with like, I didn't have a dad who would like routinely work on cars or do that sort of stuff. Like my dad both my parents are college educated. They both, my dad graduated from Penn State. Like both my parents have business degrees. They both work like mundane business jobs. But like, yeah, that's kind of how I was brought up too. Like I wasn't
You guys
really.
would love Seattle.
I wasn't. Yeah, I just wasn't. I mean, I would love to go to Seattle. Don't get me wrong. Like, I would love to just experience the Pacific Northwest and like just go out there as a tourist. But yeah, like me and Robbie kind of have. I don't know if we have like similar upbringings, but like, yeah, we kind of followed the same path. Because I was told, and I'm sure Robbie was told, because every kid from like 1980 to the present is told, okay, like go to school, get good grades, go to college, and then you can get a great job when you go to college. And
like, so you don't have to work blue collar jobs.
Yes,
like,
pretty much, yeah.
Well, when like growing up, like a lot of those jobs had disappeared.
Also
like,
true, yeah.
Oh, really?
Like, oh yeah, like still, like living in Johnstown. Johnstown produced steel for basically the entire United States in its heyday, and those jobs, like, it's gone. Like the steel mills are here, obviously. They just are falling apart. Like the jobs just left. Those jobs left. Like we don't have. Like we never grew up with the idea that we were going to be steel workers. Like that was gone way before, way before we were ever born. So yeah, we kind of, like, and they're like, hey, you go to high school, you graduate high school, yeah, you either go to the military or you get a job, or you go to college. And I don't regret it at all. A lot of people probably do that. I grew up with that probably should have just wished they gone into a trade, but no, yeah, growing up, like that was during the big college push. But yeah, we didn't have like in Johnstown the choice to like go blue collar. Like still, like a lot of people did go into labor unions, electric, carpentry, stuff like that. But the steel jobs were long gone by then.
So you guys aren't the biggest producers of steel anymore?
God, not even close.
It's kind of like out here in the Northwest. I feel like a lot of people think that like there's still like a lot of like logging and lumber out here. But
yeah,
like there's a town that our families had like a beach house down. It's where Kurt Cobain is initially from. If you're familiar, it's called Aberdeen. Yeah, and that was a logging town. And you go through Aberdeen now, and it's the logging mills are all still there, but it's tough times out there. Like people are, everyone probably had to either try to go to college or go into the trades, because I think that town a lot of towns solely survived on logging, and they just don't do it anymore. And it's the mills are all still up, but they're kind of like ghost towns, kind of.
That's exactly how a lot of these small towns where I grew up, like that's the same fate. And it's even recently. There was a long-standing glass manufacturing facility in Charleroi that had, I don't know if it made national headlines.
Was it Fenton Glass?
It was called, I think, I can't. It had been bought and sold a couple of times. I'm familiar with the name Corning Glassware, but if you're of a certain age, and even now, like. Families all over the country, if not all over the world, have seen Pyrex glassware.
Oh yeah.
That there was a facility in Charleroi that I think manufactured Pyrex glassware, and within the last couple of months, I think it finally shut down for good, which was like a big. It was like a big story here in the valley where I grew up, because that facility had been a staple in this town for 100 years. And I think the corporation that bought it is basically, I don't know if they're outsourcing jobs, but they're definitely shifting production to like facilities in Cleveland and on like the eastern edge of Ohio. But I mean, yeah, it's just more of the same of these sort of manufacturing jobs that have come to define this area. But yeah, like it's just another. You can add the Corning glass facility in Charleroi to the long list of manufacturing facilities that were founded and built along these rivers that have since come and gone, and now the only thing that's left is the building itself.
Jeez.
Yeah.
This country's going to hell in a handbasket.
So, before we move too much farther, we are technically a Pittsburgh Penguins podcast.
That's right. I forgot what we were.
So, Garrett, you stepped away this year. You didn't get to enjoy recapping all 82, or not all 82, but most of the 82 hockey games that the Pittsburgh Penguins played.
He saw the writing on the wall. That's why he left.
Yeah. So what is your takeaway from the season and where the Penguins are headed, and just your overall thoughts on the team right now?
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Not all EVs are created equal. The Ioniq 9 sets a new standard. Hyundai's first all-electric EV with 3 rows. Space in an EV. Finally. Plus, with over 300 miles of range, ultra-fast charging capability, and tech infused with safety features, this isn't just space. It's freedom reimagined. More room, more possibilities. Learn more about the Ioniq 9 at HyundaiUSA.com. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. The NBA playoffs are here, and Michelob Ultra is getting you closer to the game than ever with courtside seats and more. Enter now at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access Courtside 2024 to 2025 sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Ends on July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/superior access/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
He's not answering because he's actually a Flyers fan.
Yeah. So Garrett is something's happened to Garrett. I don't know what happened to Garrett. Garrett is not responding at this exact second.
What about now?
Yeah, there you go. There
I was just so taken aback by the question.
The mic just completely. The mic's like no.
He had to gather. He he almost passed out.
I had to collect my thoughts. I think I accidentally muted myself on this microphone, but the first thing that came to mind, because Snail had asked me to come back on the show, I think earlier, either late last week or early this week, and I knew we were going to talk about the season. The first thing that popped into my head was Mike Sullivan leaving the team.
Yeah.
And I know that that's still fresh in a lot of people's minds. But boy, did that come out of the blue for the both of you or what? Because it came out of the blue for me.
Dude, I was telling Robbie, it's the first year that when I think we talked about, going into the off season, I think in past years, I've been on the side of get Sullivan out of here where they need a new voice or whatever. This was after the Four Nations, Garrett and Robbie, I told Robbie on here live, I was like, I think we're good with Sullivan. Let's just go into next year. I think we're finally confident in Sullivan as our coach. And a week later, he says, smell you later.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was too. I was fine with it. I just I think we both said, hey, we're gonna have Mike Sullivan next year. That's fine. Move on. We don't have to worry about a coaching search. And then bam, out of nowhere.
I was convinced that Sullivan would be the coach that would get the Penguins back to the postseason. Because there are so many factors that played for Sullivan being the head coach that Fenway Sports Group has so publicly and so often said, this is our guy. And then obvious there's that connection, Mike Sullivan from the New England area and Fenway Sports Group obviously being from Boston. Fenway Sports Group was so openly championing Mike Sullivan as a great head coach. And I don't think, maybe I was in the minority as I watched this, because I did watch this season. I didn't just completely turn my TV off. Like I did actively pay attention to the Penguins this season. I knew it was going to be a struggle, and I knew they weren't going to make the postseason, as no matter how well they played. But maybe I was in the minority with my thought process was that Mike Sullivan is still a damn good hockey coach.
Oh,
and I know there's a common saying in hockey that, you know, NHL coaches have a short shelf life. So
like 3 years on average.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's something stupid, yeah.
And so I'm thinking, okay, like, sure, you could definitely make the argument that Sullivan had worn out his welcome, not winning a playoff series since 2018. You can go into all the statistics, but as I watched the team this season, you know, as you know, as sure as I was that they weren't going to make the postseason, and try as they might, they still didn't. Towards the end of the season, when we were getting Koivunen and McGroarty up, and they were looking like bona fide NHL players. Those were the two takeaways that I had at the end of the season, where I'm like, okay, Sullivan, for as much flack as he gets from the vocal minority on social media who say he doesn't play young players, Sullivan finally has two really promising young players that he can build around and deploy in top leverage situations. I think McGroarty and Koivunen are probably going to start next season in the top six on one of the two top lines, either with Malkin or Crosby. So, but to see, I think it was like a random Tuesday or a Wednesday, or maybe it was Monday. I can't remember the day he decided to part ways, but I was getting ready to go to Pittsburgh for work, and I get a text message from my sister of all people. She sends me the Twitter link saying that Mike Sullivan is parting ways with the Penguins. And at first I thought it was a hoax. And I thought it was like, you know, one of those fake Penguins, Pittsburgh Penguins on Twitter.
Yeah.
If you've been
or one of those links where you click the link and then all of a sudden it's just an egregious image of something that I probably can't even say on here.
Or you get Rick. Does anyone still do Rick rolling? Does anyone know Rick rolling?
There's It does happen, but yeah, I know what you mean.
But exactly, to you guys' point, but I couldn't believe it. And now that we've had a couple of weeks to sit here and digest it, I don't blame Sullivan, because I'm sure Kyle Dubas sat down with him and said, this isn't going to be an overnight fix. And Sullivan, I think, is wired in a way, and most good coaches are, where they want to win, and they want to win ASAP. I don't blame Sullivan for that, for wanting to not abandon ship. I think that sounds too harsh, but there was a differing of opinion between how Dubas wants to construct this rebuild and whether or not Mike Sullivan wants to be along for that ride. Because let's be honest, between the three of us, I think we all three of us know, or at least can say with some degree of certainty, I don't think the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to make the postseason in 2025-26. I think it's going to be another rebuilding year where they probably finish with 80 to 85 points. They're right on the fringe maybe, but I really don't think they're going to get in. I think the long game that Dubas wants to play, I don't think Sullivan was, he's just not the kind of coach that wanted to be committed to that and wanted to go where he thought he could win now. I am annoyed that he is still within the Metropolitan Division and that we're going to still see him very regularly as a member of the New York Rangers. I don't like that. I would have rather him gone to like the Vancouver Canucks or somewhere else in the Western Conference, the Anaheim Ducks. But I guess all good things come to an end. And I was talking with a couple of friends when it happened. That was a real gut punch for me, because it felt like it really was the end of an era. Because it was, for better or for worse. If Sullivan had gotten into December later this year, the middle of December, that would have been his 10-year anniversary when he was hired as head coach of the Penguins. And really, to be here still for as long as he was is an anomaly in and of itself, because, like we said, the short shelf life that coaches have in the NHL historically. So that was my first big takeaway of the offseason and the Penguins season as a whole. I'm really excited to see what McGroarty and Koivunen can do in a full 82-game schedule. And another thing that I wanted to talk about with this special guest appearance was Evgeny Malkin. And I wanted to question both of you, get both of your guys' thoughts. Will 2025-26 be the Evgeny Malkin retirement tour? I am of the mindset that, yes, I think this is going to be the final NHL season for Evgeny Malkin. I think he's entering the final year of his contract. Whether or not he goes back and plays a season or two in the KHL remains to be seen. I know he has a family. I know he lives in Florida. He has a house in Florida. But I think this could be it. This could be the swan song, the last ride for Evgeny Malkin in 2025-26. And I wanted to see what you guys thought. Do you guys agree that, heading into this upcoming season, that could be the big overarching storyline between November or October and April?
I think it's his swan song. I think that's his last year. And I'll even go a step further, Garrett. I've plotted out the whole season, how it's all going to go. Penguins are tanking for Gavin McKenna.
I hope so.
Malkin is going to light it up though next year. I feel like he's going to have maybe light it up is it? I don't think he's going to light it up. I'm going to rephrase that. He's going to have a pretty decent season. And I think that at the trade deadline, he's going to go to Florida to try to win another cup with the Florida Panthers, who will be looking to make it back to the Stanley Cup final for another year. That's how I think it's going to go.
That's such an interesting scenario to think about. I didn't think about. I mean, if that's what Malkin wanted, I couldn't fault him for hypothetically being traded to Florida. Robbie, are you on the same wavelength that this is Malkin's last year?
Yeah, I just think that, I mean, it's such a contrast between watching him and Crosby.
Yes.
At this age, and that's not a knock on. That's more of a stick tap to Crosby than it is a knock on Malkin, because Malkin's like, even Ovechkin, like you saw it in the playoffs, like the game is just it's just too fast. It's just too fast. Even Ovechkin, even the playoff series against Carolina, just looked a step or two slow compared to what Carolina was doing. And I just think that Malkin, it all comes to an end. We knew it was going to come to an end, and as much as it sucks, it just the wear and tear in his body. Is it different if he doesn't suffer 2 ACL injuries in his career? Maybe. I'm sure that he's going to need knee replacements at some point in his future with the way that he's battled through stuff. But the dude's a warrior. He has been since he came into the league. He's been an unstoppable force for almost 20 years. And I do think that 25-26 is the swan song. Garrett, since you write, I mean, obviously both of us do the Pennsburg stuff as well. Adam Gretz had his season recap up this week, and it was just kind of like this. We used charts that showed skating speed, and the skating burst speed, it's just not there anymore like it was. He doesn't do the pick the puck up behind the end of the net or behind his own net and just gallop through the zone into the offensive zone. That part's gone, and that was such a big part of his game. The slap shot, he can still uncork one every once in a while, but it obviously is not there like it once was. And again, Malkin, he's going to get a statue. He's a Hall of Famer. He's going to get his number retired. An absolute legend in Pittsburgh. And I do think that this will be his final season, unfortunately. But I don't expect him to necessarily be like announce it in training camp, and then he goes through like a whole 8 or 9 months of handshakes or standing ovations or anything like that. I think it could be something that if he is planning on getting traded, he'll announce it before he leaves Pittsburgh, so Pittsburgh can kind of give him that moment. But if he doesn't leave Pittsburgh, I could see it something like with like 10 games left, just being like, yeah, this is it.
Kind of like Pat Maroon did.
Yeah, kind of. Unless he's really truly undecided about playing another year come April, that he thinks that maybe he can put one more in. I think it's going to be like not even like a Fleury, because Fleury we kind of knew at the beginning of the season this was his last run. But Malkin, I could see doing. Maybe he's going to play it out and see how he feels come spring, and then go from there. But I think all signs point to him stepping away, and deservedly so. Deserved retirement. He would get a deserved standing ovation and warm goodbye from Pittsburgh. So yeah, but I just think that this will be the end. He didn't have a bad season. It's just a lot of what made him great is no longer there, and that's fine. That happens. He's almost 40. That's not a knock on him at all. It's just again more of a looking at what Crosby and the freak that he is. A lot of that's just he was born with the ability to play like that. His body's been healthy, and yeah, I do think this will be Malkin's final season. Whereas I think Crosby, I think we're looking at 3 or 4 more.
That's what I wanted to ask next both of you. Was do you think Crosby will hang on, health permitting, obviously?
Yeah.
Do you think he will hang on to guide the Penguins back to the postseason? I don't think Malkin will. I don't think Letang will either. If there's going to be one player left from this era of Penguins hockey, it's more than likely going to be Crosby. Do you think he is here? Let's say 3 seasons, 4 seasons max. It takes them to like really retool under Dubas's vision. Do you think Crosby is here leading the Penguins back into the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I do. I think Crosby is here until he gets 2,000 points.
Really?
Are you serious?
Wow. Do
you believe that in your heart of hearts?
Yeah, I believe he's going to play until he only needs 313 more points to get to 2,000. By the time next season ends, again, if he puts up, he's just putting up 90-point seasons.
It is crazy, isn't it?
Like it's child's play. He still has 2. He's going to at least play out this contract.
Yes, he is. I think so too.
That's why he played. That's why he signed the contract that he did. I think he legitimately thinks that the Penguins can win another cup with him, or at least take a strong run at another cup while he's able to still play at a high level. I really, truly think that Crosby believes that, and I think it's just going to kind of come down to the health is really what it is. Again, if he doesn't miss that big chunk in the middle of his prime, then we're well past thinking about 2,000 points at that time, because he probably gave up at least 225 points in that window of not being able to play. Is probably what he gave up, or maybe 200, whatever. But I think that Crosby has at least 3 more seasons in him. I'm going to say 4. But what I think will happen is after he plays this season, this coming season, I think he will sign a 1-year extension, and that's what he'll do until he feels like the time is up. And I think that will be the ultimate indicator, is if he enters a season with just 1 year left on the contract, that will be an indicator of this is probably it for Crosby.
I could see it going that way. I was looking at some stats. I was looking up like Stevie Y. What was he putting up towards the end of his career? And his last 2 years, 2003, 2004, 05, 06. He pretty healthy, 75 games, then 61. He had a 51-point season and a 34-point season. I think of Joe Thornton. He's a lot bigger than Sid. I don't know if he had a lot of knee issues. He had his knee redone like how many times, but by the end, he was 40-plus years old. He played 34 games with Florida. He played 44 with Toronto, and he only had a 20 and a 10-point season. Sid's 30. Is he 37, turning 38?
Yeah, he'll be 38 by the time the next season starts.
He'll be 38 by next season, and he just came off of a 90-point campaign. This guy my point is, I just think that, I don't know if Pavelski's someone that kind of is age, he's gone now, but aged similarly. He was putting up pretty good points. I could see Sid being 40-plus years old and not having, do you think that the way Sid plays and how smart he is, if he's 40-plus years old, I don't think he's going to have just a stinker of a season and only get 20 points. I think he could play. I think he could be very effective into his early 40s. And I could totally see him sticking it out with Pittsburgh and just being kind of like what do you call it? Like a player coach? Like the coach is
like Lemieux was to Crosby.
Exactly. Like maybe he doesn't even play every single game. Like maybe he takes a couple nights off here and there through load management is what they're calling it. Maybe you give him a season where you give him load management throughout the year, but he's maybe working with the guys like some of the young players, because you can think of if the Penguins seasons keep going the way that they're going right now, they're going to be accumulating some pretty high draft picks. And who better than, like, have you guys been seeing Macklin Celebrini and Sid over in Sweden, the way that those guys are clicking right now, and the snippets of Sid teaching him the little intricacies of like face-off plays and but battling in the corner type drills? Like, have you seen any of that?
Yes, and to your point, Snail, that was what makes me excited about this next generation of Penguins hockey, however you want to describe it. Right now, you already have McGroarty and Koivunen, and those two players, because those are the two biggest prospects that the Penguins have right now. For those two guys to get tips from Sidney freaking Crosby day in and day out at the practice rink and sitting on the bench in game scenarios too, like that is invaluable. And I'm sure Celebrini looks at it the same way, helping to improve his face-off statistics for the Sharks. It's not every so often that you as a young player can come up and sort of have that player coach, kind of like how you described it. And oh, by the way, your player coach, your one of your mentors, is one of the greatest ice hockey players in the history of mankind, in Sidney Crosby. So that is kind of why, like as we've all said, health permitting, I think the legs are going to be the first thing that goes compared to his hands or his
That's
instinct.
the same thing with Mario.
Exactly. Even in Mario's a much bigger guy than Sid ever was. So, I
mean, Sid at 40 behind the net, down low, getting him the puck, battles in the corner.
Absolutely.
I could see him almost getting better at that if he's not worried about carrying the puck as much. Look at Corey Perry with Edmonton. You give Corey Perry the puck behind the net or down low, Sid with that big base of his. I could see him being 40 years old and like kids still aren't going to be able to move him off the puck. Like, it's all about puck possession nowadays. And if you give it to Sid down low in the corners, I don't care how skilled or good you are. He's been proving this since he was a kid. You can't move those tree trunk legs and that low gravity base of his off the puck. He's going to be effective for a really long time, I think, still. And you think that, you think this has been going on for a lot longer than kind of what we're circling in on right now? Like with, we're seeing it with him and Celebrini, and we caught glimpses of it this season with McGroarty and Koivunen. I mean, this is why he's Brian Rust is a 30-goal scorer now, right? Like, that's why Sherry was. You think that's why Connor Sherry was so good for his stint in Pittsburgh, and then when he went elsewhere, he was essentially irrelevant. Like, I'm not going to throw Gensel's name in there because I think Gensel was a diamond in the rough, just a great player that the Penguins got later in the draft. But I mean, this might have been going on for a lot longer with players like Rust and Sherry, like specifically.
I think a lot of the players that have come through Pittsburgh and have played with Sidney Crosby have done so mostly on their own volition because of their own skill. You mentioned Gensel, Chris Kunitz, Connor Sherry. Like, to your point, was it really a byproduct of just simply playing alongside Sidney Crosby? You could make that argument, and I think Snail was, on his way to making that argument. There are some players who, like if you're not next to one of the greatest players of all time, some of your deficiencies are going to show more. They're going to show more glaringly. However, I do think Pittsburgh has been fortunate because you've had guys like Rust, Kunitz, Gensel have come through, and you can make the argument how good those players are if you want to rank them in order of, best to worst or whatever. But a lot of those players too were able to play with Sid for so long because they themselves were skilled in what they did to complement Crosby as a player. So it's I guess it depends on the player you are. Like, not to say Connor Sherry is a bad hockey player, because he's not. He's still playing in the NHL, I think, at last check. But yeah, some players, I think it's sort of derogatory to say are just a byproduct of Sidney Crosby's greatness. But yeah, you can sort of see it. And now in Crosby's sort of advanced age as a mentor, it's sort of like that old saying, he's forgotten more than some players will ever know or ever learn. And
that's a good one.
and so that is kind of, he's imparting that wisdom onto the next generation. Hopefully that benefits, as it's benefiting Celebrini right now. Hopefully it benefits Koivunen, McGroarty, whoever else they have in their farm, down on the farm right now, whoever they draft a month from now. By the way, speaking of the draft, not to ping pong off of topics, but boy, that draft lottery, talk about the worst luck. I was on the edge of my seat for a second, and I'm like, I mean, obviously Penguins fans have not felt that sort of sensation, that rush of adrenaline since 2005. But I was like, oh my God, are we going to do this? And then not only do they not get to pick at 9th, where they were projected to pick based on the odds, they go down 2 spots to 11, which is like, you got to be kidding me. I am fully expecting the hockey gods to reward the Penguins with Gavin McKenna this time next year for getting shortchanged at this draft lottery.
Yeah, I mean, it's been I don't even necessarily remember the Crosby lottery, like the feelings around that, because that was 20 years ago. But it was just crazy that, like, it went from absolute best case scenario to absolute worst case scenario in like 2 minutes. It's pretty wild how that all played out like that. But I'd be much more angry if it was next year and they were sitting in like the Gavin McKenna seat, like that close to Gavin McKenna. But again, we have the 11th pick now, and we know we're at least the 11th pick. We might have the 12th pick too, depending on what the Rangers do here. But no, they're going to get a player that's going to vastly improve their future prospects of competing. It might not be next season. It's probably at least a season away. But I mean, yeah, that night sitting there being like, what the takes would be if the Penguins went from 9th to 1st, given how everything benefited the Penguins in the past with the draft lottery. I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude,
it would have sustained me for the whole summer. Like, just
like the internet
fears of everyone else.
Yes, like I'm gonna have enough energy to like not sleep until draft night. Like, I'm going to be ready for draft night, because everybody's gonna have every conspiracy ready to roll about the Penguins getting that #1 overall pick. But it didn't happen. The Islanders got it, but no, it was just everything going the way it was. I'm like, this is too crazy.
I don't know why the Islanders are in the NHL, honestly. They're such a boring franchise to me, and it just every time they make the playoffs, it's just they get to the conference final, but it's like the least sexy hockey that I've ever watched in my entire life.
Oh, yeah.
And they get the first overall pick. So,
speaking of the Islanders, fellas, are we going to experience the Shanaplan 2.0 on Long Island? Is that where the rumors are? If they're where there's smoke, there's fire?
No. They actually hired Matthew Darsh.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, from Tampa Bay. They actually, Danny. I thought it was going to be him and Lou linking back up over on the island, but no, Matthew Darsh, who's been a dark horse name. Kind of, he's been interviewed by a few teams I've heard over the last couple of years. I've heard his name every offseason, I think, since God, it must have been maybe when the Penguins first started missing the playoffs, like a couple of years ago. Apparently great GM, so they're picking him up. But dude, Shanny getting gassed in Toronto, like that broke yesterday mid afternoon. Like that's pretty big news, honestly. It sounds like they're trying to. Shanny wasn't just the GM, was he? He had kind of moved up into more of like I heard some term, it was called like alternate governor.
Yeah, he was the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think is how it was described, at least how I read into it. Yeah, like
I think he's like what Kyle Dubas
was like alternate governor of the Maple Leafs, but
what a title. But I did see that today it came out that the Maple Leafs, basically they're kind of cutting out middlemen. There's going to be Brad Treliving as the general manager, but I saw a report today that Craig Berube, their head coach, he's actually going to have a little bit more reach and say in what players they look to acquire and keep and whatnot and develop. He's going to have a little bit more autonomy as far as a coach than the average coach. So Maple Leafs kind of, wasn't Sullivan sort of in a similar role with Pitt maybe the last year or two? Didn't he have a little bit of say?
I'm sure he did. Yeah. Because he had been there even before Dubas got there. I'm sure his opinion wasn't just discarded. But what I will say is, fellas, I don't know if you've been manifesting it on the pod since we're talking about Toronto now, but boy, how good is Mitch Marner going to look next season in the black?
Oh, God. I think I did the opposite of manifesting.
So, Garrett, would you like to see Mitchie Marner in a Penguins jersey wearing number 93?
Oh, man. That it would remind me of the Phil Kessel acquisition all over again.
Don't get me horned up on the Phil Kessel acquisition.
Like, if he would come to Pittsburgh and completely change as a player. I mean, again, in the regular season, he's fine. Like, there's no doubt about that. Like, but if he came and became like a mega playoff performer in Pittsburgh, oh my God, that would be so unbelievable.
I think Toronto would, like, if that were to happen, Robbie, Toronto would like spontaneously combust. Like, there would be no more city of Toronto. The Maple Leafs would go extinct. Their fans would go extinct. The city would go extinct. Like,
they go full Atlantis. They'd be missing off the map.
Exactly. I can't stand the Maple Leaf fans. I can't stand the Maple Leafs as a franchise. I think they're insufferable. But I am fascinated to see. I'm fascinated to see what happens this summer with the Maple Leafs, because they're gonna blow something up. Whether, like, they've already started. Shanahan's out. So, and Mitch Marner probably has played his last game with his hometown team. So,
well, it came out that Brad Treliving offered Mitch Marner the biggest contract in Maple Leafs history during the season, and then they asked him to waive his no move clause so they could trade him for Mikko Rantanen, I believe. And then there was a report that came out that they tried to trade Carolina wanted Nyes for Rantanen. So there were some blockbusters brewing up north there in Toronto, but nothing came to fruition. I actually, Garrett, since you're here, Robbie, you never responded to my question, but I want to be curious. I'm curious what you guys would think. Would either of you take John Tavares next year on like a 3-year contract for would you take him at like Zucker or Raquel money to have as like a 2C, 3C?
I think he could be effective as a 3C.
If they get him that cheap, then yeah. I mean, my goodness.
So both of you would sign off on a Tavares to Pittsburgh?
3 years? How old is Tavares? 33, 34?
33, I think.
Yeah, that's not old at all. People think it is.
Carlson's 33.
Yeah. He is... Oh, he's 30. He'll be 35 by the time the season starts.
Oh, hell.
Yeah.
Where does time go?
Man, okay, so 3 years is a bit, like, even, I don't know, even in 2 years, he's probably...
I think two, because I think a 2-year contract is probably movable if you need to.
True. That's a good point, especially with the cap increasing as fast as it is now.
Centermen don't grow on trees either. Like, if you did sign him, you always could at the trade deadline dangle him as a carrot and probably get something worthwhile in return.
So to answer your question, as a 3C, absolutely.
God, that would not look good in headlines. Now that I think about it, like the Penguins they're trying to get younger, but then they add a 35-year-old centerman for 2 years with Malkin on the way out.
The optics of that, may not look the best, but
Marner, Robbie, I remember Garrett, we were talking on here one day, and Robbie flat out opened the pod with, next year, when Mitch Marner becomes available next year, the Penguins need to stay as far away as possible from him.
Yeah.
Have you budged on that stance at all, Robbie?
No. I just think it's opening. It's just opening. It just feels like it's opening a can of worms that you don't want to deal with right now.
if the Penguins were further along in their rebuild,
yeah,
then I think, and even I said acquiring Marner, I say it slightly in jest because I don't think it's going to happen where the Penguins are at right now. But if they were further along in the rebuild and ready to take that leap, that proverbial leap, then I would put more steam behind it. But given where the Penguins are now, I would imagine Marner goes to the highest bidder, and I don't see the Penguins.
I think people are really underestimating just how much money he's going to get. Like
he's going to get what? I don't know what he's making right now.
I think it'll be like 16.
I think it's going to be.
It's probably going to be, if not the most, it's going to be right up there. I think it's going to be a number that
resets the market. I think.
Yeah, I really do. Again,
you think in good conscience he would take that, knowing like the foils in his game as far as
absolutely.
Like
yeah,
bro, if somebody's offering, I don't care what my faults are. If somebody's offering me that much money, my goodness, you're stupid not to take that contract.
Marner becoming an unrestricted free agent. I mean, obviously he doesn't know the salary cap forecast, but he's becoming an unrestricted free agent at arguably the best time in his career.
I think that the next best time would probably be next offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to go up higher.
Yeah, I really think that basically if you're becoming a free agent, an unrestricted free agent in the next 3 years, I think you're stupid to sign an extension right now. That's why I was shocked that Marcus Pettersson signed an extension in Vancouver that quickly, because I really thought he would be the kind of defenseman that would get mega bucks the way he plays. Teams value that.
Marcus Pettersson signed an extension in Vancouver?
Yeah, like a few days after he got traded.
Oh, just like a couple days after. Yeah. Dude, what a moron. He probably he had no idea that Vancouver was about to completely blow up, and it's basically going to be just Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson left.
Guys, how great is either Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson going to look in the black and gold next season?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, I've been on the Elias Pettersson train for like half a season now.
I've been on and off that train daily, but right now, just for the sake of conversation, I'm down with Elias Pettersson on the Penguins.
I'm fully on board with Quinn Hughes though.
Oh, I love Quinn Hughes. Oh man, I was watching him towards the end of the regular season on a random ESPN game. Oh man, he skates like friggin' wind.
Yeah.
Would you trade McGroarty and Chris Letang for Quinn Hughes?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In a second.
And a first and next year's first round pick.
Yes,
absolutely. Because you're not guaranteed to get anybody to go to Quinn Hughes next year.
Gavin McKenna.
Well, but you're not guaranteed that. I mean, you're not guaranteed that at all.
Yeah,
but
you give up a haul for Quinn Hughes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But in terms of Marner, I think that he's gonna get a market resetting type contract. Again, like he's 100-point player. Like those guys do not grow on trees, and we can talk about the playoffs all we want and all that fun stuff. But the fact of the matter is, he is a great hockey player. He has a very unique skill set. People think that he's going to go and he's going to struggle to get a contract. Dude, one of these teams that is looking to make a big splash is going to offer him 15, 16 a year and completely reset the market.
Where do you guys see Marner going next year? Like, what's your first team that you think of?
Detroit.
Really? You think? Well, that does make a lot of sense.
Again, it's not far from home. It's right over the border from Toronto.
Yeah, you're right.
Detroit is one that I haven't heard a ton of people mention. I've heard more people mention Utah because Utah's looking to make a big splash. But to me, Detroit just makes a ton of sense. Whether or not it works out with how Yzerman is running things up there, that is a different story. But I really think Detroit could be the team that really ponies up to get Mitch Marner.
Garrett, what about you?
I don't know how much salary cap space Seattle has.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy,
Seattle. I mean, what we don't know what Jimmy Rutherford's going to do. Jimmy Rutherford enter the Marner sweepstakes, and and Snail, you even brought it up. Like everyone is now assuming that the Canucks are on the tailspin downward with Tocchet leaving and maybe Quinn Hughes going to New Jersey with his brother, and who knows what happens to Pettersson. Well, now's perfect. Bring in Mitch Marner and inject some fun into the Vancouver Canucks once again.
Yeah, Marner and Pettersson actually on a first line together.
Yeah.
I don't know, one of their depth players on the other wing. That they might make sweet music.
But yeah, there's so much still to determine between now and July 1st. So, and I don't know if I think Marner might take his time. I don't know if he's going to sign right at noon on July 1st, really examine the market. But yeah, I think me and Robbie are the same. We're on the same wavelength. He is going to probably make 14 and a half, maybe 15 million a year.
I guess if you're Marner and his agent, and you just went through that his whole career in Toronto, just getting lambasted by the media for so long, I guess why stop taking the money now?
Toronto, see that the media too is another reason. Like, compare Austin Matthews during his rookie year and like put a side by side between rookie Austin Matthews and 2025 Austin Matthews. The man. Matthews has had his soul drained out of him by trying to carry that cross of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and now it's another offseason where they have nothing to show for it. And so Shanahan's gone, Marner's probably gone. You can't trade Nylander after he signed that massive contract.
No. He's the only one out of the core four that they, the so-called core four. He's the only one that handles the media with any sort of he looks fairly comfortable in front of the media and seems it kind of just rolls off his back. You can tell, dude, Marner and Austin Matthews are so uncomfortable in front of the media when they have to answer the hard questions. If you've seen their pressers, you can just they're not built for that market whatsoever or whatever. They don't handle it with grace, that's for sure. And
to Robbie's point, Robbie, you mentioned Utah as a potential landing spot for Marner. Like, comparing the media circus between Toronto and Utah would be night and day.
Oh my God! Well, yeah.
Almost
you could probably go grocery shopping in Utah and you wouldn't even be recognized.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's almost like Toronto, Montreal, maybe. I mean, a lot of the Canadian markets are sort of like high strung because that they live and breathe the sport. A lot of the American markets, like you said, Snail, he can go grocery shopping and not get recognized. I think that's part of something that is going to attract Marner to a team potentially like a Utah.
I could see it. What about this? What about who's always lurking around on players? And it's not Vegas because they're definitely always lurking around. But dude, what about Tampa Bay? They got bounced. What if Tampa Bay goes, why don't we have a 1-2 punch on the right wing of Kucherov, Marner?
I can see Tampa Bay jumping in on that. That's
Gensel, Hagel, and then you've got you got Braden Point and.
No, I think a lot of Tampa Bay's issues are depth problems more than high end problems.
For sure.
So it would not shock me if they focus more on getting some depth pieces, filling out that depth, because that's more what their issue is right now than the high end problems. Like, Kucherov's still super effective, Gensel's still great, Point's still great, Hagel's great. Like, I really think their main focus would be on filling out their bottom six and help working on that blue line a little bit. But I really don't think that you can definitely roll them out for Marner, because that would be a very Tampa Bay move to do something like that. And but again, they have the advantage, no income tax state. I don't think Florida's really in the running in that sweepstakes. I think they're he doesn't really play the game that Florida wants to play. But Tampa, it's an interesting an interesting thought there based on how they operate. It'll be interesting to watch them as well if they would try to swoop in or at least offer him a contract, whether or not it is one he would take, but at least make contact and maybe talk some numbers and stuff like that.
You would think that a coach like John Cooper, his influence on he might be able to maybe get to a guy like Marner and maybe help change how he plays in the postseason. If anyone could do it, it would probably be someone like a Mike Sullivan. God, what if he went to the Rangers? What if they made a splash and went? We were talking about Sullivan earlier. Sullivan. Do you think Sullivan was kind of chasing the bag more than the situation in New York? Because New York is not, dude. Are they a lock to make the playoffs next year?
As they're currently constructed, no.
I wouldn't say they're a lock. Like they were very unimpressive this year. JT Miller moved the needle for like a whole 3 games for them, and then if they added a guy, could you imagine they get Sullivan in there and then they get a guy like Marner, and I don't know, they're middle, they're up the middle of the ice. They're all slow.
I hope he stays away from the Metropolitan Division.
Yeah, that's fine. If he wants to go to like Detroit, like I said, Detroit's kind of a semi mess in itself. No guarantee of success there. Chicago, again, complete mess in Chicago.
Maybe he links up with his old pal Sheldon Keefe in Jersey.
They just hired Jeff Blashill, which LOL. But if he wants to go to Utah or Tampa wouldn't even tremendously bother me all that much. But he's going to leave Toronto. I don't see any way that Toronto runs this back. If they do, it'd be very, very funny. But
I would love it.
I look at Detroit, Utah, Chicago. A team looking to make a big splash with a lot of cap space is going to be one to do this.
I could see it. It'll be interesting to see. I have one more Penguins question for you guys here. Obviously, it's up in the air of where the Penguins are kind of go as far as next season. Do they go full Gavin McKenna tank, like Sidney Crosby tank mode, or do they kind of want to be another? I feel like if you're going to miss the playoffs next year, you might as well miss by a lot. Who do you think is someone that the Penguins are going to look to bring in? Who will be their biggest off-season acquisition this summer?
Matthew Knies.
I would actually, my shorts would incinerate off my body.
Again, I don't think the Penguins with Sidney Crosby are going to be bad enough to go full on atrocious tank. I just don't think Crosby's going to let that happen. And I was reading a thread on Twitter this week. The Penguins never really did tank for Crosby. Like that never really happened. That's kind of revisionist history of how it all played out. Now, Mario is a different story. That is a different, in the 80s, a different story. But as for I don't think they're bad enough to be Sharks level bad. But I don't think that if they make the playoffs this year, it'll be a lot of abnormal analytics to get them there. But I'm more focused on let's see if we can get McKenna. But as for big name coming in this season, I think Dubas is going to do something by acquiring a RFA, not necessarily through an offer sheet, but through a trade. And if Knies is that guy, that would be fantastic. And I think he'd play phenomenally with Crosby. But
a true power forward.
Yes.
Billy Garrett got a left shot.
They're not going to empty the coffers for a high-end free agent this offseason.
Yeah, their biggest acquisition this offseason is probably whoever's their head coach is going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think necessarily whoever this head coach is, I don't know if this head coach is going to be the head coach that sort of takes them back to the promised land either, which kind of leaves Dubas in not a precarious situation, but really almost uncharted territory, because there are pieces here in Pittsburgh that that any coach would like. Any coach would love to coach alongside Sidney Crosby at this point, but it's not necessarily super attractive either, because whoever comes in, Dubas is gonna have to be blunt with them and say, hey, like, we're not gonna, because I don't think the Penguins are gonna make the postseason next year.
Yeah.
But I also don't think they're gonna full out tank for McKenna either. They're not going to tank as long as Sidney Crosby is on this team. And even when Crosby is off this team, let's say 5 years from now, I don't think by that point they're going to be bad enough to tank either. Like, I really think Dubas envisions a scenario where the Penguins are bad for a couple of seasons. Yeah, like they're not making the postseason, and that angers the fan base, and that might annoy a winner like Sidney Crosby. But I really don't think the Penguins are ever going to be San Jose Sharks level bad, or Mario Lemieux circa 1984 level bad again. I just don't see. It's not how the organization from top to bottom, I think, is structured.
Yeah, that I agree with.
I guess it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Garrett, Robbie, you guys think that the coach will be any indicator, whoever he hires, on maybe the direction of the team next year?
Maybe it's the direction of the team for the next 3 years.
Yes, I was going to say.
Yeah, because they're not going to hire a guy for just a season unless it's David Quinn. They're not going to hire a guy. If it's David Quinn, I know.
If it's David Quinn, we know we're getting.
Yes,
we're getting Gavin McKenna.
Then I know what the direction of the season is. But if it's a Mitch Love or Jay Westwood,
you mean Woodcroft?
Jay Woodcroft, then I think we're looking at more of a 3 to 4 year outlook. You're not hiring a up and coming coach like that for one season to be bad and to be bad, to be completely just dreadful. You're not doing that. You're not going to throw like that. You're not going to get a selling point. You're not going to be able to walk into an interview with a guy like that and be like, hey, this is the plan for next season. We just need you to coach through it. You're not going to hire a young up and coming coach. I don't think Dubas is the kind of guy that wants that. Dubas is looking forward to the future. He knows even if they struggle next year, the coach he's going to hire, I think Dubas wants to be the guy that at least gets them back to the playoffs. Whether or not that's winning a cup, I don't know, but at least gets them back in contention. So yeah, unless it's David Quinn, I think the coach points more to a 3 to 4 year outlook than a outlook for 25, 26.
Maybe they're looking for the next Michel Therrien.
Soft. Wow.
His favorite word.
No T at the end, just two F's.
That was soft. All right, gentlemen. Anybody have anything else they want to say?
If they get Gavin McKenna next year, Garrett, are you going to come back on full time to cover the rookie season of the next phenom in the NHL?
Full time.
He might be. Yeah.
We'll cross that bridge if we happen to get to it. But what I was going to say was that I think we'll reconvene probably later this summer, probably around July 1st. And
you got to come back on.
We'll reconvene probably after July. We'll reconvene around late September, early October for a little preview, and then we'll see where the season takes us. And
we can make Garrett a regular guest.
Like a check-in or whatever. I know you're. I know that you're out of the limelight and you're no longer just like dealing with the fame of being the Pennsburg journalist and as well as the face of the Skating Penguin Network podcast. I know that you're probably enjoying retirement and you're living lavish in Finleyville or whatever it's called. And but you got to make some time for us again, the small people in your life, and come back on and just maybe like a quarterly check-in. And the fans want to hear it too. Like they haven't forgotten Garrett. They haven't forgotten you.
It weighed so heavily on me, the toll of being that guy, the Michael Jordan of the Skating Penguin Network.
I know, dude. You and Sid, man, just carrying the city.
It really, it really did take its toll. But my batteries are recharged, and
good.
This getting the gang back together to talk about life and to talk about the Penguins and hockey. It was nice and refreshing. This was my first podcast that I've done or been a part of since, unless I came on at some point last offseason after I left. I might have, but
no, I don't think you did.
You had your goodbye episode, and then
it was radio silence for like a year.
Yeah. I went off the grid, and I was living in the Arctic Circle up north. I was completely just cut off from the rest of civilization.
He was just doing cold plunges.
You were in Charleroi at the Elks Club.
Hey, maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. You can't confirm.
So before we wrap this up, I'm going to ask Garrett this one question. Garrett, you obviously we didn't talk. You still work in news, so you're still kind of tuned into the happenings of obviously the Penguins and all the sports teams in Pittsburgh because you kind of have to be.
Mm-hmm.
How's life? Like, I mean, just in general, like, how are you doing? I don't know why we didn't lead off with this. You have the apartment, but anything going on in the city that we should know about, or just anything you really want to put out there for any of the listeners? I mean, Brian misses you. Brian,
that's right.
Brian wants to know. I know Brian asked about your shin splints at one point in the mailbag. But like, how's everything going?
The shin splints aren't they aren't a problem anymore. I have built up an immunity to the shin splints, so that I'm from that perspective I'm doing pretty well. But Robbie, as I told you before we started recording, it's really just been sort of the same thing, different day. Still doing my thing. Just working crazy hours in news. Like, if I could have one thing different in my life right now, it would probably be to have a normal 9 to 5 Monday through Friday gig, which I don't have right now. I'm working Saturdays through Wednesdays, and to tell you how weird my schedule is, Saturdays and Sundays I'm working 3:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Mondays I'm working 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Tuesdays and Wednesdays I'm working 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So
sounds awful.
That's the one negative thing that I will say about my current situation, work-wise anyway. But personal life, I turned 27 earlier this month on May 6th.
Nice. Happy birthday.
Thanks. Thank you. 27 going on 77. Especially, with the shin splints and the back pain and everything else that comes with being an old man.
Yeah.
I'm one step closer to, getting the dad New Balance shoes and the white tube socks and the jean shorts. All I need really is the fanny pack and the jean shorts, and I'll be good to go. And I'll send you guys a pic of my drip, as the kids say. I have immaculate drip.
Good shit, guys. Well, Garrett, thank you for coming back on. Like you said, we'll have to make you a more regular guest. We'll talk after the off-season flurry, as we would call it, and then before the season. But great to have you back. Great to hear your voice. I know, again, me and you do the Pennsburg thing. We're always, especially during the season, me and you trade off on.
Oh God, yeah, we're tuned in, buddy.
So we're tuned in all the time. Snail, obviously, Snail and I are doing this a couple times a week, so we're him and I are in tune with one another as well, obviously. But anybody have any last thoughts before we close this up? And
no, this was awesome. It's so cool to chat with Garrett again, aside from just sending memes back and forth. That I read a thing that Instagram was looking to show reels that you sent, you could see reels that you send people, and if that happened, I think Garrett, I don't know who would go missing first. It would probably it's a tie for me or Garrett. Just the things that we send each other are just not appropriate for it's just not appropriate to even bring up at all. So it's awesome though to chat in a more, I don't know, talk hockey again. That's Garrett. That's how I know you. It's because you used to just bring me the news into my headphones every day at work about the Penguins. Robbie, you as well. And yeah, this was awesome. We got to have you on every once in a while and just kind of shoot the breeze and kind of, yuck it up and then go into some Penguins thoughts and opinions. So I know Robbie's down for that. So we'll have to make this more of a regular thing.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone who claims that they said that, like Brian and everyone else who had sent us questions when I was still doing this regularly, hopefully they didn't get too annoyed with my voice over the last. We've been going for almost an hour and a half now, so hopefully I didn't get too tiring to everyone else who claimed that they missed me. But I think what we'll do, like we said, we'll reconvene intermittently over the off season.
Sure.
See who the Penguins hire as head coach, if they make any fun splashes. But I'll tell you what, Snail. If that thing about Instagram comes true,
oh God,
and the reels become public, I will have to be put in witness protection.
Then you're gonna have no choice but to go to Seattle. So.
Yeah, then you will be painting with me out here in Seattle, but your name will be Barrett Gahana.
Yeah, it will. Boy, if the FBI ever expose some of the reels that not only that I've sent you, but some of my coworkers and other friends,
It's good night. Good night, Jim Kite. You'd be done.
It would not be a fun I would be sent away for a long time. And you'd never hear me ever again.
I'd be right there with you, pal. It's not pretty in my DMs either.
All right, gentlemen. Well,
all right, fellas.
Thank you, Snail, not Snail. Well, thank you, Snail, for joining, obviously, and setting this up. But thank you, Garrett, again for coming back. So for Robbie and Snail and Garrett, I did that completely wrong. For Snail and Garrett, I am Robbie. We will be back again next week with more off-season content. So until then, take it easy. Have a good holiday weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you guys soon.